the 5th of August 1996, Usenet, the internet's sprawling discussion forum, was hit by a wave of bizarre, nonsensical messages. Subject lines like Markovian parallax denigrate, cystine devastation shotgun, and pterodactyl macroscopic Maltese appeared, filtered with jumbled, often complex English words. These posts contain very long strings of random words which seem to be absolute gibberish. The only thing that seemed to make sense was the subject line, which read Markovian parallax denigrate. Speculation on what this gibberish meant sparked the beginnings of one of the biggest and earliest unanswered internet mysteries of all time. For decades, Markovian parallax denigrate, or MPD, became one of the internet's most enduring unsolved mysteries. Was it an art project, a rogue eye, a government experiment? Our investigation began by unearthing contemporary Usenet posts from the exact same day, August 5th, 1996. Users like Catherine Hampton were reporting a massive flood of vertical spam or a dictionary attack, hitting newsgroups like out.religion.christian.boston-church, an international Church of Christ group, and even news.admin.net-abuse.misc, a group for discussing Usenet abuse. Hampton described messages with forged headers posted from different locations using a string of unrelated English words, the majority long and somewhat complex, generated by a program using an English dictionary, revealing all words less than 4 characters long. And the example she provided: cystine devastation shotgun, pterodactyl macroscopic Maltese. The dictionary attack was the Markovian parallax denigrate flood. They weren't two separate events. These net abuse experts didn't just describe the attack, they pointed fingers. Suspicion fell on a known network of Usenet trolls, Bob Alisat, an infamous figure known for massive spamming, blank verse poetry floods, and feuds with anti-spam activists like Jan, whose server was impersonated in the flood's forged headers. Alisat himself had threatened a plague of poetry and a Halloween surprise of Usenet disruption. Googaxis, identified by Nancy McNally and others, consisting of figures like Gruber, Steve Borsey, and Dimitri, they were explicitly accused of being behind the dictionary attack, which we now know is MPD. These individuals were already known as menaces before August 1996. Associated with this network was Dave Hayes, a vocal proponent of absolute free speech on Usenet. His alternative primer on net abuse, free speech, and Usenet provided a philosophical justification for acts like spamming and high-volume posting, framing them as legitimate speech against a censorship cabal of news administrators and anti-abuse activists. Technical contributions to INN, the Internet News Server. Crucially, Hayes was a contributor to INN, the dominant Usenet server software of the era. The INN 2.0 contributors file credits him with patches to the Perl hooks to make the headers modifiable. We found the readme.perlhook and the C source code perl.c for this feature. It explicitly allowed a Perl script to modify any header of an ongoing Usenet post if a variable modify headers was set. This provided the exact mechanisms for the sophisticated header forgery and origin obfuscation seen in the MPD dictionary attack posts. Hayes also wrote about techniques to evade Usenet death penalties by manipulating these very headers, and even contributed posting backups code to INN. Hayes' primer credits Dimitri Bullis of the Googaxis. His Freedom Nightlets was seen connected to Gruber's. The evidence paints a remarkably clear picture. Markovian parallax denigrate was not a mysterious, isolated event. It was the dictionary attack, a massive, coordinated spam flood in August of 1996. This flood was attributed by contemporary experts to a network of known Usenet abusers, including Bob Alisat, Gruber, Borsey, and Bullis. This network was ideologically aligned and technically empowered by Dave Hayes. His contributions to INN provided the critical tools to forge headers and obfuscate the flood's origin, and his writings provided the philosophical justification. The motive was likely a combination of revenge against anti-spam activists like Jan Eiley, disruption of targeted newsgroups, and anarchic expression of their absolute free speech ideals. So, While the specific individual who coded the MPD text generator remains unknown, the who and why behind one of the internet's oldest mysteries are no longer so enigmatic. Markovian parallax denigrate was a weapon in the chaotic business wars of the mid-1990s, wielded by a known group of provocateurs armed with ideology and code. Direct evidence is circumstantial. We lack server logs, fingerprints, or the actual posting machine, or even a confession. The accusations against Salazar and his friends are credible but remain hearsay. Once INN shipped, anyone compiling from source got those hooks. Hayes wrote the code. We cannot show he pressed enter on the flood script. Alternative culprits aren't disproved, only rendered less likely. The Susan Lindor red herring is dead, and the early Markov chain AI idea is unnecessary. However, some other spammer with the same toolkit is not impossible.